Welcome to Relatable Situations. I'm your host, Ramon, and I want to welcome you to the show. Today, I'm going to be doing this episode solo, and I wanted to talk to you about a topic that I feel is pretty important in regards to dating and kind of give you some of my top five do's and don'ts when trying to date. So, if this is something that is interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe to the show. Listen to the podcast on the traditional formats: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, but also subscribe to the show on YouTube and comment, like, share, as well as follow us on Instagram. So let's get right into it. Hi, what you I have a list of five do's and don'ts of dating, and this is in the initial periods of dating. So I want to go through that list. I want to give you my take on what the do's and don'ts are, and then I would love for you to give me your feedback, either in the comments on YouTube or reaching back out to me on Instagram, or reaching back out to me by email to let me know what you think about my five do's and don'ts. So let's get right into it. All right. Don't number one. Don't share too much too quickly. So what do I mean when I say that? So, okay, you're initiating into a relationship and you're excited about meeting someone new, sharing your life with them, and you find yourself sharing too much too soon. Too much information, too much of your personal life, too much of your body too soon. From a male point of view, because this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a male point of view, but this actually applies to both sides. But from a male point of view, if you are giving me so much so quickly, it doesn't give me an opportunity to be able to first understand and kind of tabulate what it is that you're saying, because there's so much that you're throwing at me. It's almost like overwhelming. So oftentimes what happens is I may get 90% of what you're saying, but 10% of what you're giving me, it may go by the wayside. Secondly, to that point, if you're sharing so much of yourself with me so soon, it doesn't give me an opportunity to want more, because you've given it all to me right up front. And what I'm talking about in particular is of yourself. If you've shared so much of yourself physically with me right from the start, then there's nothing for me to look forward to, because in my mind, I feel like I've gotten all that you have to give, which we both know is not true, but that's the way a lot of men see it. So let's talk about what you should do in that particular situation. You should share small portions of yourself. Engage the other person's understanding or their level of being able to handle what you shared. Whether it be information about yourself, whether it be the aspect of your personal life, like your kids if you have them, or whether it be a small kiss. It shouldn't be a situation where you and I have gone out once or twice and we're already asking each other, so what do you want? How do you want your eggs in the morning? Do you want yours with cheese? It shouldn't be that way. It should be a situation where we take our time to get to know one another and get to that point, kind of a build up. And again, I'm talking in terms of if you're looking for something long term. If you're looking for just a good time, then do as you please, let the chips fall where they may. But if you're looking for something a bit more stable, something that has the potential to go into a longer term scenario, you're going to have to take that thing a little bit slow. And unfortunately, women, you're going to have to in a lot of cases, force the man to go a little slow. Because for us as men, we want all we can handle as soon as we can get our hands on it. So that means all the stuff that you want to throw at us, we're not going to say no to, because we want to try to take as much as we can from what you have to offer, as well as the macho side of us does not want to exhibit or try to show you that we can't handle what it is that you're throwing at us. So that's just something to think about. So let's get into the next one. Don't trust without verifying. Okay, so it's nothing wrong with giving someone a certain level of trust, but you want to verify certain things with people, and I'll touch on how far you should go with that verifying. But you want to trust, but verify that this person is worthy of what it is that you're entrusting in them. You want to make sure that this person is not someone that has basically sold you a bill of goods, when in actuality they have a whole nother agenda, a whole nother plan that you have no idea that was occurring. So you want to kind of trust but verify what it is that you're sharing, what it is that they're sharing with you, and then go from there. So number three, don't play detective. All right, so I have some folks that I have worked with who have started off our coaching relationship where they tell me, yeah, well, I was looking through his phone and I found X, Y, and Z. Okay, so my first question is, so what made you feel the need to have to look through his phone? In other words, why did you get to a point where that became a necessity? Well, because he wasn't telling me what I wanted to know. Okay, so stop right there. And this is just my feeling. If you feel that you have to now dig in places that you and I both know you probably shouldn't be digging because that's their private space, then that's your answer. No matter what that person tells you, whether they tell you the answer that you want to hear or tell you the answer that you feel is not the truth, the fact that you don't trust enough that what they're saying is valid, that you have to now go out and investigate it yourself, that is the answer. The answer is there's something dysfunctional happening at that point that you need to dial back the level of intimacy that you're providing that relationship. It doesn't matter that you go in this phone and you don't find anything. It doesn't matter that they told you the answer that suffices the questions that you have. The fact that you had those thoughts, the why. In other words, the reason why I asked the young lady why she felt the need to do that is that's the important part of this. It's not so much about what you found or didn't find when you looked into the phone, but what made you feel the need to do that. So, what I would say in terms of what to do in that situation, if you have issues that cause you to become a detective, is you need to put that out on the table before you start checking in the phones and checking in the emails and so on and so forth, to say, hey, look, I'm having these concerns about you and about our relationship. I would love for us to have a conversation about what it is that's making me feel this way and give you an opportunity to explain that to me. And if that happens and you feel comfortable with that response, then end it there. But the problem that arises when you become a detective in that way is that it doesn't end. It's not going to end when you didn't find something that one time. Because what happens the next time that you feel the way that you feel? Are you going to now all of a sudden just trust him? Or are you going to say, well, I want to trust him, but just to make sure, let me go ahead and check into his phone. Now, before we go any further, I know that a lot of folks are going to say, well, Juan, you just mentioned that I should trust but verify. And that's correct, you should. But verifying does not mean invading someone's private space. That's a whole nother category. What I'm saying when I say, the prior part about trusting with verifying is trusting that when you give somebody some information or they give you some information, that you gauge off of other things that you see outside of you snooping into their personal space or other things that they say, that you can now gauge against and say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't add up. That you told me that you were a millionaire, But I see here that your car is not running because, for whatever reason, you haven't taken it to the shop, or you're in a situation where you say that you own three houses, but whenever I see you, we're at someone else's house. There's a problem there. There's a disconnect. So that's what I mean in regards to the trust, by verifying. So let's go to number 4. Try to outdo the other person. Now, this one is one that really sticks in my side. This this question, or this um, point, came up as a result of me watching another YouTuber who is very successful, who I agree with probably 90 to 95% of what he talks about, um, and I feel that he's pretty much on point in terms of what he's doing. Not that he needs my validity with that, but just being someone who watches his episodes and watches what he talks about, I, I agree with what the brother talks about. However, there was on one of his recent videos where he talked about some of the things that turn men off about women. And he was talking about a woman's, I guess you can say desire, but a woman's ability to be able to talk about her accomplishments and share what she's accomplished in her life. And in particular, he was talking about things like finances and where she's, what she's achieved in her career. And I'm not going to mention his name, of course, but I will say that his response to this really rubbed me in a very irritating way. What he basically stated was, no man wants to hear that. No man wants to hear about your accomplishments. Who cares is what he said, quote unquote. He said, "Who cares?" And I was almost offended by that statement as a man, because I care. I care, and I'm sure that the women who have worked hard and long to attain what it is that they've attained to that level in their career also care. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think I know what he was getting at. I just think that where he went with it is a little bit too far. So what he was talking about, perception, was that no one, man or woman, should rub in the other person's face what they've accomplished. Yes, I have my master's degree. I have, a high-end sports car. I have, 3 homes. I make X amount of dollars. Nobody wants to hear that. So I'm with you. But that also applies to women not wanting to hear that from men. It's not just men wanting to hear that from women. So when he talked about that being something that a woman shouldn't do, I took offense to it, because I think about all of the women who have worked so hard in their careers, who have gone to school or haven't gone to school, but who have achieved so much in their lifetime, and gone against the grain to be able to accomplish, tremendous things in their life. And, you know, the way that he was describing it was where he was talking with a young lady. I think he was coaching her. And he said, the first thing that she talked about was her accomplishments. And I thought to myself, so what's wrong with that? Why is that a problem? Why is it a problem for a young lady or older lady to say, this is what I've been able to accomplish. I'm a president, I'm in my own organization. I have, amassed a great deal of wealth. I have purchased, several homes. What's wrong with that if she's talking about what it is that she wants to share with you about herself? So what I got from that, from having watched some of his other videos, is, and I'm hoping that if he ever watches this, he's not offended, but it just This is the way I feel, and I think that a lot of men feel this way. I feel that a man who is turned off by a woman who shares her accomplishments in a tactful way, not being overly, rubbing it in your face, but just letting you know that what she's done and how she's proud of what she's been able to do in this lifetime. I feel that a man who is turned off by that is a man who feels threatened by that. A man who is maybe insecure himself so that he wants to be the one to say, well, this is what I've done and this is the money that I've amassed and so on and so forth. So as long as the man is saying it, that it's fine. But if the woman dares to open her mouth and talk about what she's accomplished, then she's now out of pocket. Nah, nah, bruh. Although I respect what you have accomplished as a coach and as a YouTuber, a fellow YouTuber, I wholeheartedly disagree with that portion of what he was talking about. I think that either side, if we have taken the time to make some things happen in our life that's positive, by all means, we should share that. Especially when you ask me the question, tell me about yourself. That's part of me. Me having accomplished certain things in my life is a part of who I am. So if you're threatened by me sharing with you who I am, then maybe I'm just not the right person for you. Maybe you ought to look at what threatens you. In other words, going back to the why. Everything to me is about the why. Why are you threatened, or why does it turn you off? Me sharing with you my accomplishments. Why wouldn't you say, which is what I would say, congratulations, that's great. Let's talk about what it took for you to get to this level. Let's talk about how long you worked hard in order to achieve the things that you achieved. Opposed to me knocking you down and saying, I can't believe you're here telling me about the fact that you are a senior vice president, or you have 2 or 3 homes. Why in the world am I threatened by your success? I'm not. I'm not, because I'm mature enough and confident enough in me that even if I don't have those things, you give me something to aspire to, and maybe even succeed. To do even better in, or maybe we can now build even more together. But none of that means that I'm now turned off because you're sharing with me your accomplishments. So I know I went on a little bit more about that one, but that one, it really, really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and it made me feel like, yeah, I have to speak about that. Now, what I will say is what you should do in those situations is you should find a way to not only share the accomplishments that you have, but turn it around and say, yeah, I share with you what I've done, and I am proud of those accomplishments. But I want to find out more about you. What have you done? Because I'm sure there's some things that we can celebrate in your life as well. And even if that person doesn't have those things, that's still an opportunity. That's where you could say, hey, you know what? I know that, I may have had some breaks that maybe you didn't, or maybe you came up in a different environment where you weren't necessarily able to achieve those things in the same manner that I did. But guess what? Here's the good news. The good news is, as we're getting to know each other, and as I get more involved in your life and you more involved in mine, maybe we can share some of the tips and things that we use to get to the levels that we did get to. I can share with you what I've learned. You can share with me what you've learned, and we can use those things to grow together. So opposed to being so concerned about whether or not this person is outdoing you, be more concerned about what we can do together, if that makes sense. All right. So I'm getting off my soapbox. I was on it for a minute. Let me move on to I think it's the last and final one, and that is having unrealistic expectations. Okay. So having unrealistic expectations can be a problem no matter what kind of relationship that you're going into, business, personal, whatever. But understand that the expectations that you have for the relationship that you're in have to be based upon the facts, and it have to be based upon the situation as it stands. You can't make it more than what it is. For example, And no disrespect, women, but a lot of times, and I think I've talked about this previously, a lot of times women will engage with a man, will give themselves physically to a man, and then expect, okay, so I guess in the next 2, 3 months we should start planning our marriage. No, it doesn't work that way. Because you chose to give this man that part of you, does not mean that that now warrants for y'all to start setting the wedding date. You have to be realistic about the thing, and you have to understand that it's two people involved in the situation and not just one. So you may feel a certain way. You may feel that based upon me having, spent some time with this person in a physical manner, and we, maybe even said the crazy word "I love you," any of that, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it's going to end up being. You have to take your time. You have to slow down things so that everybody's on the same page. And you have to check in. You have to check in the relationship to ensure that y'all are not on different, playing fields, or you're going in different directions. One of the things that I was talking with someone about recently who I was coaching was that they hadn't done that. They hadn't done those check-ins, and now they're married to the person, and they're realizing that they're going in totally different directions. One person is going north, and the other one is going east. That's a problem. But that problem occurred way before they got to this point of this fork in the road that they're now facing. That comes from taking your time initially to get to know the person, to talk through things, to engage in potential scenarios, to talk about, hey, this is how I feel about this. What do you think? Ensuring that both of y'all are on the same page, and ensuring that you understand how that person feels. To me, as I always talk about, communication is so important in a relationship and in all aspects of the relationship. To me, if you're not communicating properly, then you're leaving your relationship up to chance. I hope that it works out. I hope that everything goes well. Well, there's a good chance that it may not, because you didn't do the due diligence necessary in the beginning. You didn't talk through some of the things that you feel. You didn't gauge the other person's understanding. You didn't make sure that y'all are on the same page as you move through the relationship. So now you're at a place where, because y'all didn't communicate, they don't know where you are and you don't know where they are. So y'all are literally lost within the relationship. So my suggestion to prevent that is communicate often. Um, do little small check-ins, whether it be just in the communication in terms of talking, or even in the sexual communication. You know, hey, let me ask you a question, babe. Last night we had a great time. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you did too. But I want to ask you, how did you enjoy this? Did this make you feel whatever way it was you wanted that person to feel? Is this something that we want to continue doing? So that you're not in a situation where you're doing something that you think this other person is loving, when in actuality they're like, oh my God, here we go again. Not that. Not the knuckle. So, with that being said, it's extremely important to me. It's extremely important to me to communicate. It may be uncomfortable sometimes. It may be a situation where you're like, okay, so this is going to be a touchy subject, but I need to know. And the reason why you want to do that is it's much more important to know what isn't going to work up front than to be 2, 3, 7 years down the road. You now, potentially have been married, maybe have a child together, maybe purchase some real estate together, and now you realize I don't want what this person wants at all. What they want is totally separate from what I want, and I'm not sure what to do about it. So now you feel stuck, and then that's going to kind of snowball into additional things, and now before you know it, this other person that you happen to work with or happen to run into is enticing you in ways that you shouldn't be enticed because you're already in a relationship. Anyway, you know where I'm going with that. So the point is, take your time, slow down, get to know, and most importantly, communicate. So I just want to give those 5 quick do's and don'ts. I really, really would love to get some feedback on this because I could be totally off base. I could be just dead wrong. I'm giving you one's opinion from one's experiences in education, but I want to hear your opinions. I want to know: am I off base on some of this? Should I be thinking about this in a different way? Can I improve in my thinking? Any of that. So please, 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 if you um, feel comfortable enough to share your comments on YouTube, share your comments on Instagram, uh, shoot me an email, any of the above. I would love to hear back from you. But please, at the end of the day, continue to enjoy the show and let me know how I can best serve your needs. So, with that being said, as I say at the end of almost every episode, communicate, y'all.